this is Plutoburns with the book review for Metro 2034, the sequel to Metro 2033. This is a direct sequel to Metro 2033 and has nothing to do with the video game Metro Last Light, which is its own narrative. The events are of course taking place 1 year following the end of Metro 2033, and features an all-new cast of characters and an all-new focus. Whereas Metro 2033 was a story of a place, it was how does this world function, how do the people live in this world, how do they survive. Metro 2034 is a story of characters. It's a story of the people in the Metro rather than the Metro's inner workings itself. So, to that end, of course, we have new characters. Artyom is featured in a small role in a couple of side chapters, but our main cast is Hunter, whose name is Hunter and his job was a hunter, which is a little confusing. He was featured in the previous book in the beginning. He was the hunter who gave Artyom his quest that, of course, set off the narrative. There's Homer, a 60-something man who, because of his age, of course, remembers what the surface world was like, very much so. And his name is not actually Homer, that's his nickname. He's got that nickname because he is obsessed with storytelling, and that obsession actually drives the structure of this story, but I'll get to that later. Our third character is Sasha. She is a 19-year-old girl born and raised in the Metro, which gives her a very unique perspective for the reader to see the story through. There are a couple chapters where we see the story through her eyes. Most of it's narrated from Homer's position. Sasha was the daughter of a prominent politician at a station, but then there was a communist uprising and they were banished. So, the events start at Homer's home tunnel, and the tunnel where he lives at is very prone to monster attacks. They have extremely tight security. Hunter showed up at this tunnel and demanded living conditions in exchange for his none too valuable services at killing monsters. He is an extremely efficient killer. Now, unfortunately, because of the isolated position of this station and their constant need of bullets, they are very dependent on imports of bullets from other stations. And unfortunately, their current shipments have been delayed. So Hunter decides to take action and find out what happened to the convoys and head up the tunnels. And he takes a couple people with him. He takes Homer and another character who I didn't really learn much about, apart from the fact that he had a wife and daughter, which made his death really, really depressing. But they discover that there has been a lockdown at the station up the tunnel, and Hunter overhears that there has been a very nasty infection, and it's very contagious going through that tunnel. So they've put themselves on lockdown and aren't letting people through. So, Hunter decides that the best way to deal with that is to flamethrower the entire tunnel. And he takes Homer along with him for reasons that are not more for survival, they're more a personal thing, because Hunter, following the events of the previous book with the Dark Ones, has been damaged, physically and mentally. And he has, the only way at this point that he can maintain his sense of identity is through protecting people. And if he doesn't take someone with him on his quest, he will lose himself mentally. Now, because of a couple of convoluted turns and twists, they had to go through some unused tunnels, which led them to Sasha's house. Sasha's dad had just died of radiation sickness, and a couple of people who had been gunning for him since his politician days had just shown up and were about to kidnap her. Now, Hunter, of course, immediately dispatches with them, and Homer insists that they bring Sasha along. And this is the driving point of the story. Homer is very much aware of how mercurial the human memory is. He knows that within 2 generations, all knowledge of the surface could be completely lost if someone doesn't catalog it. But unfortunately, the living conditions of the Metro are very dangerous for paper. So keeping the history written down on paper is not reliable. So his plan is to create an epic. He will write it down on paper and memorize it, and he will travel from station to station telling this story verbally, and he will create a new oral history. Now, of course, the idea of actually trying to create, like, on purpose, some sort of oral history epic that will contain important information that can be remembered by people for centuries, even if the important details get lost, is not something that most people set out to do on purpose. It tends to be something that happens by accident. And he is aware of the fact that just staying in the tunnel is not going to do him any good. So that's why he goes off with Hunter. He imagines Hunter will be the protagonist of his story, and when he meets Sasha, he's like, yes, this is the female romantic love interest this story needed, or just the female perspective it needed. It is to be noted that Sasha, despite being significantly younger than Hunter, does attach herself to him and is quite capable of calming his bloodlust. Now, Sasha is a good character. I did have some problems with the way the author portrayed her. It's not to say that he created a bad character. I'm just saying I don't think he was fully capable of writing his own character. Because there are a couple times where he tries to write about how Sasha's inner womanhood awakens, and it gets really awkward. But thankfully, that only happens a few times. Because Sasha herself is an interesting character. She's very naive. She hasn't traveled a lot in the Metro. But she is a survivor. She spent a lot of time scrounging, and she knows how to take care of herself, even though she isn't too savvy on how to, handle the political factions that govern travel through the Metro. So, that's our three cast, and they go on this quest to save or destroy the tunnels that have been hit by this infection. Now, again, this is a story of people. Homer and Sasha are people persons. They talk to people. They interact with people. Hunter is not a people person. He shoots people. When people get in his way, he shoots them. Homer and Sasha can talk their way through things. And they also encounter another character whose name I don't recall, but he is a flute player. He is a traveling minstrel? Traveling musician, as it were. And he truly embodies the idea of a person who gets by entirely by manipulating people. And not, in a horrible way. He's just very good at reading people and what they want. So, this is a very interesting story, just on the way that you're never quite sure how the narrative is going to play out. Once it's established that we have this infection that has to be dealt with, you're not sure how they're going to fix this, because there's not a lot of medicine around in this world, and if there's no way to survive the infection, which we do get a couple chapters where we spend some time in tunnels where the infection has spread, and it's sort of like a zombie apocalypse in its own way. I mean, the people don't turn into zombies, but they get quarantined, and the people who quarantine them start, getting infected, and the quarantiners have to start quarantining themselves, and society just breaks down. And you're never quite sure where this narrative is going to go, because Hunter wants to kill everything, and you the reader can tell that's not the correct decision, but you don't have a better answer. We're kind of put in the same place as Homer. Homer may be trying to be an impartial narrator in his own story that he's writing, but he's not very good at that because he has visited tunnels that were infected. He is very much aware of the fact that this journey could kill him. So, it's a very interesting story. It's a great sequel to Metro 2033. It goes in an entirely new direction with the world. And I can thoroughly recommend it for anyone who is a fan of the first book. I'm Plutoburns, and thank you for watching.